This is Mr. Smith, and this is a video specifically on how to take the content we've already made and share it with others. Now, this video is going to be slightly different than most of my videos because for most of my videos, my target audience is primarily my students. And I'm going to start off specifically talking about what my students can do to hand in work, but also this is going to talk about how to share work with your own students or with a larger public. So to start off, I have a sample video that I've made here. It's not really that engaging. It's just a test clip. And I have a cat rubbing up against my computer, so forgive me if you hear any sounds from that. So I'm going to take this video and I'm going to share it in a variety of places. First, I'm going to pretend that I'm a student and want to hand this in Google Classroom. Now, as luck would have it, I have a Google Classroom that I've joined as a student, and something that I've already done for this particular class is I found the assignment that I want to hand in, and I've gone to view that assignment. So this is what I would be seeing for that. In my classroom, you would traditionally see the rubric information here and any additional directions or things that can help a student out. Now over here we've got add or create. If I click on this, I have a bunch of options. And I could actually pick more than one of these because of what I've done in advance, but chances are a student hasn't already uploaded their stuff to Google Drive, and they're not going to be linking to it, so they're going to want to pick File. Now, once they've picked File, they've got two ways to upload their work. They should ignore all these buttons up here. Upload is what we want. I can either click on this button to go through my file system to find the file that I want, or what I can sometimes do is drag a file directly in. You notice how that changes. Say drop your files to upload here, and it takes me to the screen here. This is not handed in yet. I have to click upload after I make sure that's the right file name. I could add more files if I want to. I can upload a whole bunch of them at once. So once I've clicked upload, that progress bar goes across, and I've still not handed it in. As soon as this finishes doing what it's doing, this mark is done button is going to turn to turn in. There we go. And if I press turn in, it's going to give me a pop-up saying, hey, wait, are you sure? And if I click turn in, then it's going to mark it so far as the teacher can see as saying, hey, this is handed in on this date. Now, that doesn't mean I've done it correctly because maybe I picked the wrong file or whatever, but that's the basics for that. Now, what if you're a teacher and you want to share a video or audio with your students? Well, there's a few ways you can do that. I highly recommend using Google Classroom for that. If you're in Google Classroom, the default interface is your stream. If you click down here, you can pick individual students, which this class doesn't have any students in it, so I can't select students. But let's say you have them broken into groups and you want each group to be doing a different assignment. Well, you can select that information in this interface here. You can pick different classes over here. If you've got more than one class that's doing the same thing, you could select all different classes to get the same announcement at the same time, which is very useful. Type in information here, and of course click add. And this is very familiar looking. I'm not going to go through this because we've already done this. Now, if you have your video uploaded to YouTube, that is something that I didn't talk about. If I click on YouTube, I've got two options. You could actually do a search for the video here, which I don't recommend because that can be tedious. Chances are if you are trying to add a YouTube video, you already know what video you want to add. So I would just click on URL and copy paste the exact address for the video that you want to share directly into here, and it'll make it show up. And then you just click add. I'm going to cancel out of that. Now, something else you can do in classwork, if we hit create, you could do the same interface and make it be a material. The usefulness for that is if this is something that's going to be like an evergreen media that you want to share with them, so it's like a how-to video that they're going to have to keep coming back to as a reference, then material is good here because it'll show up in the classwork interface for all time until you delete it. For stream, yeah, it'll still be here forever, but at the same time, every time you post something new, it's going to push it down a little bit. So eventually it'll be hidden just under the deluge of other announcements that get put in the stream. You can also add it in if you are creating an assignment. You can go in and use the same interface. I'm going to X out of that. If you are creating a question, you can still add it. So maybe you just want them to be able to answer a question in regards to the video. Maybe they need to answer a question that you're asking in the video. Maybe the question is checking for understanding for the video that they have to watch. These are all different things that we can do. I'm going to X out of that though. Google Drive is also quite similar in nature for how you can hand things in, but there's a slight difference that we're going to go over. I can still take a file if I'm in Google Drive and I have my folder that has the file in it open in another window. I can drag that over, and you'll notice a little pop-up down here. If I let go, it's going to immediately start uploading that file, which is very convenient. I did this already because there's a little bit of processing time. When you first upload a video, when you go to double click on it, it'll actually give you a message that says that it's still processing. So you can't view it unless you download it. I uploaded this earlier so I wouldn't have to worry about that. Now, with this file, I can click on it and I can go up to this little icon right here for sharing. And now I can type in individual names of people with whom I want to share it with. So if I want to share it with my fellow media arts teacher at my school, I could do that. I could put in a whole bunch of other names. I could put in a note here for them. Maybe I don't want them to be edit the video. Maybe I only want them to comment on it. Maybe I only want them to be able to see it, and that's it. I could get a link that I could share with a whole lot of people in an email. So with this, anyone who works for my school system can view this video if I copy this link and share it with them. But I can change that. I can have it be more open. I do not recommend it. Or I can have it be very, very specific, which is usually a much better idea. There's also the opportunity of going into an advanced mode where you can really go through and fine-tune who gets to watch the video and who doesn't. For most things that you're sharing, if you are in a school system like mine, I highly recommend leaving it set so that only people in the school system can view it, just for ease of privacy. Now, if for some reason you are using a web browser or operating system where dragging a file over doesn't give you that nice little pop-up, which happens sometimes, I have a few computers where that's a problem, well, there's another way to upload your clips. Instead of dragging things over, you can click on New, and you have a couple options. File Upload allows me to go through and find the file and then open it. I'm not going to click that because then it's going to start uploading that right now. You could also, if you have a whole bunch of files you want to upload at once, put them all in the same folder, and you can do folder upload. It'll ask you to select a folder, and then it'll upload everything in that folder, which, again, I'm not going to do because, oh my gosh, that would take forever right now. Now, if you're viewing the actual video, you still have an option if you click on the three dots over here in the corner to go to share, and that'll be a very familiar interface at this point. Google does like putting the button to do things in more than one location for ease of use. Now let's say you have an outward-facing website, and here's a sample Google site that I've made. How do you get to Google Sites, you might ask? The same way you get to Google Drive or anything else in a Google ecosystem. You click on the little icons over here. In my school system, we tend to call this the waffle because it looks kind of like it got smashed with a waffle iron. And I could go down and find sites and click on this. I don't believe this is enabled for students, but it is definitely enabled for teachers. It's not used as much as it could be, I have found. So here's a sample site that I've made. I've gone through a lot of the beginning stuff already, but something that I can do is just have a section on here where if I'm looking over at my insert options here, I'm going to insert, I can click on any of these layouts and it'll add a new block underneath. So if I click on this, it adds a block here where I can add some type of media here and then give a description of what I want people to do with this media or what the media is about here. I could click on another button and it's not going to replace this, it's going to add a new version underneath. So you could have a whole bunch of clips at once. You could have things rotate through. There's a lot of features here that I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going over. I'm going to actually get rid of this one here. And so for this little plus right here, if I click on this, it gives me a bunch of options. Oh, some of these look familiar. I could upload a file. I've already uploaded my work to Google Drive. So I'm going to click on From Drive. And oh look, there's my video. So if I double click on that, the video is added right here, and people going to my website would be able to hit the play button right here. I can't do this because I'm currently editing this, but they'd be able to hit the play button here and it would play in this window. which would make it fairly convenient. The last thing I'm going to show is YouTube. There's a lot that's good and bad about YouTube. I'm not going to go into all of the details for this. If you are uploading school stuff for YouTube, one, I highly recommend that you are a staff member and not a student. Second, I recommend that you be using your school provided YouTube account, which in my school system, we all have Gmail addresses, so we all have YouTube accounts as well. If I click on my profile up here, this is definitely my school account. That's my school email address. And if for some reason I'm looking at this and it is not my school account, it's my personal account, I can go down here and click switch account, and it will let me pick which account I am using. Now, once you are certain that you are in fact uploading it to the right account, which is important, there's a little icon right here that looks kind of like an old school camera with a plus on it. If I click on this, I have an option of uploading a video. And now that I've clicked on that, I have a button here where I can drag things in. Well, that's familiar. Can I drag this over here? Oh, look, the icon changes, which means it is recognizing that I'm dragging a file over. Or I could click the select file button and find it the old-fashioned way. And once I have done that, it takes me to the screen where I can put in a name that is better than the generic name I gave the file. I could type in a description here, which is very useful. I can, if for some reason I want to have a very specific thumbnail for that video, I can upload that here. There is a 2 megabyte limit on the file size for that, but that's neither here nor there. It does try to figure out some good options for you, so you can click on one of those instead. These only show up after the video upload is done and it started processing it. As a 12-second video, it processed very fast. I can add it to a playlist right off the bat. I only have one playlist here, and I'm not going to add it to that one for hopefully obvious reasons, or I can make a new playlist, or I can just not add it to a playlist at all. It is going to ask who my audience is for this. Because I mostly make videos that are geared towards helping my students, I would probably click yes, this is made for kids. But it's a test video, I want people to ignore it, so I'm not going to worry about that too much. I click next. I usually ignore this part altogether. You can play with it if you want, but I usually do not. I could set it to be live as soon as it finishes processing and I've hit this button. I could tell it to, no, wait, process everything, but then have it go live at a specific moment. I could have it be unlisted, which basically means it is live for anyone who knows the link to the video, but people aren't going to be able to find it by doing searches. Or I could have it be private so that only people who I share it with specifically would be able to see it. If you are choosing YouTube as an option, I would recommend either doing public or unlisted, depending on how you want the video to be shared. If you're going to go with private, considering teacher accounts have unlimited space in Google Drive, private is probably going to be served much better for you in Google Drive, where you get a share link and send that out, versus having it be a private video that you then give the link to for specific individuals. Alright, I'm going to press save here, and at that point the video is uploaded. It's in there with all of my other videos, including some things that I did for classes. Ignore that. And right now, because I picked private, it just says private. And that's the basics of how to take the work that you've made, possibly using the other tutorials that I've created, possibly not, and sharing it with others. If you have any questions, feel free to ask.